Whose fault is it anyways got interrupted. Maybe this is our new whose fault is it anyways. Done live. Let's find out. The argument that kind of broke out is if you should still be supporting the off lane Tide, and you don't believe in the Tide. People tell me I should have gone with the flow. The flow is going to lose us the game. Okay. Let's take a look. Before even getting into it, right? I am open to the idea that either side could be right. I do think offlaners can have a bad time, and you can fix it with good support play. I also think some people are pretty bad, and sometimes you got to step up, which is some of the idea of like why I like Tinker support, even though it's fallen out of the meta. Right? We know this hero as a mid laner, he can scale. So I do think it's possible to start playing that way. I also still think there's a balance to it, since you mentioned you ended up getting low prio reported. I will say one instance of it does not get you low prio. So you may want to reevaluate some of your behavior in other games, because a single instance of this should not get you low prio. Was trash talking, not gonna lie. All right, so unrelated advice, don't trash talk. It will lower your team's morale. Even if you dislike the guy, I know you still want to win this game. And even if this guy's bad, if you flame, it only goes worse. There is no upside to flaming. It is self, damn. There's such a good word for this. I would have looked so smart, but I don't have it. You're jerking yourself off by flaming teammate. We'll put it crudely. It's only for your own benefit you flame. It never helps your team play better. So as soon as you go into it, you no longer care to win, which goes against the like try hard mentality that, you know, I bring here, our positive try hard mentality. Anyways, we come up here. I don't think you should do bottle. Tinker actually has really good base stats. Tinker support, back when it was more viable, and I played a lot of Tinker support, so I can speak to this with some experience. Your base stats are pretty good if you look. Decent damage, good armor, attack speed solid, naturally fast movement speed, which makes no sense as a keen folk carrying a bunch of stuff on his back, right? I don't know how this guy's fast. I guess he's like got powered legs with his armor. But your stats are really good. So you actually just want like intelligence, null talismans, components, stuff like that, because it'll be useful later because you get item CDR based on intelligence. So everything you start with, like the null talisman components, they help you lane and they will be valuable later on. The bottle, you can't easily refill as support Tinker. So it's kind of dead value to me. I would buy one late. Like if once you get your teleport and you want a bottle, I'm open to that. But in the early lane, this is a 4-minute respawn, and then this is a 2-minute respawn, which obviously you should go to the mid laners. So then you'd be like griefing your own mid if you demand the bottle refill. So I'm not really a huge believer in the bottle. This guy's super low armor as well. So like if you just had stats and right click him every time you see him, you'd be in a good spot, which you kind of did right there. I would, rather than start defense matrix, by the way, I would start with laser and just laser gyro when he wants to trade and when he wants last hits. If you had stats, you could actually just fight this guy. This guy has 0 armor and he went a bunch of mantles. You see he's actually running out right now. If you see Skywrath and you click him and you see this kind of build, this is the kind of guy who's going to spam Q, and if he wins the lane, he wins the lane. If he hasn't won, then he has nothing. So if you buy one salve, you're good to go. So you buy regular starting components, including a stick, because we see like stick would have been really good versus like any mixed match of safe lane heroes. You could just stand and fight this guy with laser. You wouldn't even need to like back off with defense matrix. And then one salve, now you fight, you're full health, you're both full health, let's pretend, and he has no mana, you hit harder than him. So you can just like finish off the Skywrath. These heroes are good versus Tidehunter, by the way. You have a window here to help your own lane keep these creeps out of the tower for a little bit. You can tank, you have enough health to tank a little bit. So if you keep this creep wave out of the tower, you'd be in a better spot. All right, we have our bottle. So this is the issue with the bottle. You've lost 3 minutes. Like, you haven't been able to fight Skywrath because you don't have starting items, and this guy has died. We can argue he could have been a little safer, but like, we would have always been on the losing side of this lane. So now we must win. Like, that's the idea. If we're gonna like do a really greedy start, you're saying like, we win now that I have the bottle. But I'm pretty confident once this bottle runs out of charges, It's like, we won't do anything again, which is why I would recommend the stat start instead. If I went laser, gyro rocket plus sky slow will kill me instantly. But why would they get close to you? So like, for where you've been playing, gyrocopter has never been able to threaten you with rocket barrage. So I agree, if you're too close up and you don't have translocator, you could die to slow plus rocket barrage. But that's where you just need to position differently. Like, you've actually been positioning correctly to deal with the rocket barrage. The way you've been standing is like, oh, I won't get slowed in rocket barrage, which I agree with. But then like from there, it's okay, I'll take Skywrath out, because without Skywrath, this is how I'm helping Tidehunter. Gyro versus Tide, together they will kill Tide. If I can keep Skywrath away and then eventually focus the gyrocopter, that's me as Tinker. If I'm playing Tinker in this lane, I feel I am the strongest hero, and I will first take Skywrath out, and then I will take Gyro out. I think either approach would be good. You want this guy, he has to do his damage slowly. So if you also take healing bots, you can now trade really effectively and shove the lane. And if they try to fight into you, you will always have creeps. Like if you're fighting in the lane, creeps will help you tank the rocket barrage, or this guy has to deal with creeps, and rocket barrage isn't good at dealing with creeps. So he has to use a lot of flat cannon, which also counter shoves the lane, which balances out the healing bot spam, but we actually get healed from the healing bots. You can also like fight over here and then get extra value from the camps, because you shove in the lane, then you pull and you have healing bots to zone them off of this. I think this is actually a very winnable lane if we change the way you play on the Tinker. This guy's issues aside, like he could still be a bad offlaner. I'm saying for your own improvement though, like if this guy was a good offlaner and you played the way you're playing, he would still lose this lane. His last hits are fine. Part of the reason this guy can fight so much is that we aren't doing anything to him. You essentially have 50 net worth right now for the, like, just to like put the bottle, this is the issue with the bottle support build. We haven't spent the rest of the money. So then they have, so this guy is spending most of his money, minus 225. And then Gyro is spending most of his money. It's not all here yet. Essentially, this guy soon to have about 2,000 net worth, but we can cut him down to about 1,500 right now. Skywrath has spent most of his, we'll say like 1,000. So this is like a 2,200 net worth lane versus Tidehunter, who has actually spent most of his money. I think some of it is about to arrive. And then you with like 50 gold, which is like below, like underneath this chart. That's part of why like this build is going to really struggle. Also, to paint a different picture, if we did play the way I mentioned, but we go for this bottle build, you won't have the stats and the upfront regen to play the way I discussed. So it's like multiple things have to combo here. A different build and a different play style will win this lane. But like a mixed match of either, you'll be on the weaker side of it all. No shit, Ogre's here! Ganking Ogre! So where every little bit helps, any extra harass on the gyrocopter, slowing him down a little bit, that may have been a kill. Overall, pretty good though. At this point, I actually feel okay about this lane. For everything we've critiqued, I feel about even in this lane. I actually think you should be losing a lot harder. If a Tinker tried to do this to me, and I was for some reason playing Skywrath 5, I feel like I would have dumpstered him. So I actually think we're getting away with a lot here for like how greedy this build is. I don't have any major issues with what Tidehunter has done up to this point. And I feel okay. And looking at the net worth, like it is kind of okay right now. So I'm not sure what has affected us quite yet. Ogre's even over here. This is actually sick. He's actually rotated over, and it looks like Medusa's doing fine. So we are now going to start slowing down the gyro together, and Medusa should be free farming. Look at this Ogre. Ogre is a ZQuixotix watcher. Look at this. Okay, but this ward's not the best Ogre, but I like that you had a ward. Besides that, he got Medusa in a good spot, and he's up here. Like, I actually, as a team, pretty good. This guy just soloed Leshrac? Hell yeah. All right, so what's next? We're now into the early game phase of what we've talked about. So Tide tanking a bunch of damage. Looks like they're gonna get Ogre. No big deal. They brought 3 heroes here. It's not very good for, what's his name? For Gyro. I mean, it's like okay, but notice he didn't get the kill. He's farming. I prefer this. Like if you ask me like Gyro with 1 kill, let's say he got it, versus Medusa free farming, I would be happier with where the Radiant is right now. Our goal on Tinker is to get to level 6 and start holding the worst lanes possible. Midas is not gonna help us do that. We just need like arcane boots and stuff. I would not report you for Midas because I am not to like, I don't know, hype myself up. I'm probably one of the most open-minded Dota players in the game. If I saw you get this build, I would not report you for griefing, but I would think it's one of the worst builds I've ever seen, and we will probably lose because of it. But there's a small chance I am wrong, so I guess I'll see how it goes. And also, anything can work in Dota, so I would stay open, you know? I am not trying to flame, but I want to, you know, genuinely put out there the harshness to like highlight the mistake. I think you can play Tinker and not trust this Tide, but I think if you just play differently, you would actually have a much more impactful game that could still scale into core. You can still do normal Tinker support stuff and transition to core. Because the core transition is not 0 minutes in the game. The core transition is like 15 to 20 minutes in the game. You play the exact same way up to level 6, and from level 6 you would start being greedier, but you would still do normal stuff. You don't actually need to do the changes you're doing. I think you're overcorrecting for what you are going for. The Midas has lower CD on Tinker. That's if you have intelligence items. We don't have any. I know it's gonna be a little lower cooldown just based on your regular intelligence, but it's not worth it. This will get you a bit more gold. However, comparing... Okay, Midas will only help you kill creeps, and you'll get money from that. It won't help you do anything else. If I wanted to be a really greedy Tinker support, I open up, I get arcane boots, because personally I believe in that. You could potentially skip the arcane boots, do the bottle, but I would buy it later, right? But let's just say I'm going into this and I want to carry. I would get arcane boots, soul ring, Kaya, and I will be doing a bunch of jungling once I am 6. I am playing normally till 6, and then I am planting wards for my team and then just like jungling. I'm looking at where my cores are. When Medusa is here, I am jungling this stuff. If I see her retreating back and this tower is up, I'm coming here, shoving the tower and doing these ancients. I'm coming here and like while Tide is here, I'm stealing these. When he's here and the time works out, I'm here stealing these. And it's not stealing because he can't get to it, right? I am min-maxing on what my team can farm, and I'm not even griefing them. I'm playing super greedy, and I'm doing like a, you know, I'm going for a fast Kaya and stuff, but I can do all this farm, and because I can show up and farm faster, you're actually going to get more money than the Hand of Midas, and XP, which is very important for Tinker to scale, which Midas no longer helps up. So a different build would still help you do the same stuff, but then... Let's say I see my team make a play top, I can actually show up with my like Arcane Kaya Soul Ring build, whatever I've decided to go for, and I can actually get kills, which will also accelerate faster than the Midas. So like I have more options to take control of the game. Trying to think of another way to put this, but like there's a reason if you see someone smurfing, they don't pick a hyper scaling slow hero and like rush Midas. They usually actually upfront power and get kills. That's not to say they only do that, but like you're actually giving up so much control with this type of build. But if you think you're better than like someone on my team is garbage and I need to pick up the slack, or their team is garbage, whatever, this is actually just giving more space to those heroes, and actually like stronger builds will help you do more, I guess. Like even if you want to be greedy. Soul Ring on Tinker. I guess that was the build when I was doing it, because it helped with mana. I don't know if he still needs to do it anymore. Actually, with Holy Locket being better. Oh shit, maybe we should try. I should test this. I should test the numbers on the new Holy Locket active. Maybe we can play support Tinker again. I hadn't really thought about this. Yeah, I mean, if Soul Ring is no good, skip it. Just do like arcanes, get the bottle later once you're 6. Now that you're 6, the bottle's got a lot of value. But you can see when you bought it, it was not doing much. But now that you're 6 and you're like going back and forth to base, you're good to go. This is actually pretty dangerous. If you're doing this, you might die. I would like TP back here and like do the machines. Okay, so this is where it's a little griefy because like Tide is here. And I know you may have issues with Tide from the previous game, but if I want to win, rather than grief him, I just need to like do what's good. So for example, you could get the same lane farm over here where there's nobody in the lane right now. And Tide would come up here and get this farm and he would look like a better player because when we take his farm, he obviously looks poor and underfarmed because I am the one farming it. But if you come here, this is actually dead space for your team. So now you are benefiting, and Tide will still do, like, he will get something. Other dead places on the map right now are here, 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 and we could have maybe even joined this fight that happened here, and then here. So there's actually like 5 other places you could still get a lot of farm that don't grief the Tide Hunter. But this puts him in, because you can teleport is the thing with Tinker, right? And that's why like Tinker support was so good, Nature support, Dawnbreaker support, why they've all been good is that they have this flexibility. This one's fine, because everything will respawn before Tide Hunter could get here. So this is not stealing farm from Tide Hunter. That one is A-okay. Now we would TP out and stack if possible. This one is really bad. If we start farming this, again, where are dead areas on the map? This is going to respawn, but now it's kind of griefy because Tide Hunter is backing off from this area and could make it here. So if you farmed this, this would be bad. This creep wave is about to go to waste and no one will make it here without teleporting. And no one else has the teleports that I do. So I would come here to farm. Medusa is literally about to farm this stuff. If we start taking this, it's really bad. If you're just here to bottle her, that's okay. This one is kind of okay, but again, Medusa could actually make this farming pattern. She probably won't make it here before 13 minutes. For how fast she can farm at level 7, the time it takes to like do all this stuff, she'll probably get here around 13 minutes. So if you farmed this, I'd be okay with it. So essentially, we can TP here, shove this lane, and then jungle this stuff, and then kind of reevaluate, see where people have gone. And yeah, we do kind of steal some farm from her. So now, like, every time we do this and we go, man, my teammates are underfarmed, it doesn't make sense. It's like we don't understand what we are doing if that ends up being the case. Because it's like I'm pushing the kid over and then I'm saying like, look at this kid, he can't even walk. The kid starts to stand up and then I kick it over again. I'm like, this kid can't stand. What is he doing? It's like, I am the one doing it. I am taking the farm from the Tide and from the Medusa. It is okay to play greedy supports when you don't believe in them. Like, I'm all on board for that. But the high skill thing is to understand where to do that. Because what you are doing is actually a completely legitimate strategy with good players. But if you execute the way you are doing, it is not going to work. So you still want to practice your skills. Even if you think like, this game sucks, this guy's bad, he was toxic, right? All of that aside, the important thing is that we improve in this game, and that will be useful in the next game. Like, this is what improving in Dota is like practicing every single game, whether the game is griefed or not, because the lessons you learn and what you practice will carry between games. So if the lesson we learn here is how do I read the map and where do I farm that is getting me money, but not reducing the money my cores are getting, that is an invaluable skill that is not going fully to plan here. Again, this one's actually okay because they're about to respawn. This part's okay. The build also I would, change. We talked about that. But like, it's okay to play this way. I am fully on board for that. Or like the theory of it, the execution of it is what can change here. Hello friends, editor Zach here from the future. I'm gonna cut out like 30 minutes of the Tinker taking farm from teammates to then claim they carried the game at the end. Couldn't really convince them otherwise, and I don't think I explained myself the best. It's in the VOD if you wanna see it, but with the power of editing, I don't know if they'll see this, but I'm gonna show you a little bit more info here to maybe make my case a bit more clear. So at 10 minutes, net worth wise, we see the Tinker, usual support Tinker stuff down at 2K, and if Tide's at 3K, we can say, okay, rough off lane, which we've seen could have gone better in a lot of different ways. At 20 minutes, the Tinker has 8.6k. Now that is insane. That is a lot of money, but we see it comes at the cost of taking it from teammates and really throwing the Tidehunter under the bus. Again, not really the best way to go about it. They do eventually, reach top net worth and then, carry the game, which you can see by player hero damage. At the end, the Tinker is number 1, max damage. But if we go to 30 minutes, the Tinker player has done 5,000 damage, which is absolutely atrocious. Somehow Dragonite is even below that, but we're not here to talk about the Dragonite player. This is really, really bad. Now, player hero damage is not always the best way to measure game impact, but I think it's useful in this example. At 10 minutes, the Tinker has 1,600, 20 minutes is 2,000. This is a global hero we are talking about, who the whole point of this hero is to farm empty parts of the map and be able to show up to fights in the same way Nature's Prophet, Dawnbreaker, the global type heroes can do. So the fact that our support, Tinker, has not joined anything, clearly, by 30 minutes, they've barely joined anything to have this little impact, that means they got carried for 30 minutes. And then in the final 10 minutes, yes, they contributed to some kills, but I don't think that's really fair to say, they carried the game. To me, this is being carried. And when they play, if they play with teammates who will not put up with it and will grief themselves, and they'll be like, okay, Tinker's not doing this, I'm done, right? He's just not going to make it to this final 10 minutes to contribute, and he's going to lose much earlier. If you play versus opponents who have, this is Crusader, so very understandably, there's a lot of mistakes going on, but it means in Crusader, they're not punishing this ultra greedy playstyle. And for example, the Dragonite having a terrible time, we can see, doing almost nothing in terms of hero damage throughout the entire game. As soon as you start playing versus better players, they will punish this, and you will not make it to the final 30 minutes because your teammates will not have much farm that you've been stealing from them, and you're going the ultra late payoff, Midas, bottle, stuff like that, only getting useful items pretty late into the game. It's just not going to work. I went to Dota 2 Pro Tracker, and I was just looking at some random Tinker 4 games. There isn't anyone who does the same jump to 8k net worth. But also notice, no one is doing the Midas. Okay, there's one guy at the very end who went this Midas stuff. He lost, by the way. Everyone else is doing a more standard build, right? Buying actual starting items, getting the early stuff, getting, whatever they think is best. There's a couple different styles in here. But I want to highlight that there are a couple players who are doing a similar net worth jump from 2,000 up to 7,000, right? 3,000 to nearly 8,000, 2,000 to 7,000. And if you go through these replays, they are doing what we talked about. They are showing up to fights, and then in the meantime, they're going to go farm, but not steal it from their teammates. Here's one random game where they went from 2,000 to about 7,000, and notice the core on his team stays above him because he's not stealing farm from that core. He is taking it from other places. And if we look at player hero damage, at 10 minutes into the game, the Tinker has already done 5,000 damage, which is what the other Tinker did in 30 minutes. And then throughout the game, you'll see that number stays rising because they are balancing farming and joining fights. Another random example, the Tinker is at about 3,000 at 10 minutes, so having a crazy game, and they do surpass the Slardar. It's not the end of the world to surpass your offlaner or other cores. Certain greedy supports do it, like Tinker, like Chen. It does happen, you see in pro matches, but when you come to the player hero damage, you see that it's not at the cost of AFK farming, throw them under the bus. The Tinker is the top contributor in this game at 10 minutes in terms of player hero damage, and throughout the game, you see the number continue to rise, meaning they are balancing farming and showing up to fights. With all of that said, I'm not surprised to see mistakes made because this is a Crusader to Archon game, and I would not have even reported someone for doing this bad build, even though I've explained why I think it's bad. You'll see that once it starts paying off, it does ramp up so long as you get carried through this early portion, which we highlighted ways Tinker can join and do more himself, but it does eventually work. So I would not have even reported someone for this. What I would report for is when you do this because Tidehunter was bad in the last game, and now I'm going to flame him in this game, and I'm going to say, I did everything this game. That's where we're now into a little bit delusional territory. If you want to be greedy, you best be positive to your team and tell them that it's going to pay off later and learn to contribute as much as possible. but recognize your place in the game and that your teammates are doing a lot to get you there. And then even as this Tinker scales up, a lot of it is still being set up by Shadow Demon finding people with the Blink disruption, by stuns from Ogre and Tidehunter Ravage. Like, they are still doing their part. So as soon as you think like I did everything, you are really missing the big picture and how everything connects. So to me, that's what's report worthy. Though most Dota players, I think, will report you much earlier and would probably say the low priority after this game was deserved.